Hello, Earthlings. How you doing? Now, some of you may remember when I started this channel, when I had outrageously short hair at the time, that I used to, for the first few videos, describe myself and give a bit of history of my activism, etc. And I stopped doing that, of course. But since this video is aimed at newer members of the movement, let's say, I thought I'd just state it one more time, because I've been an activist since the late 1970s, and I'm concerned about developments within the movement. And at one point in 1982, I was on a committee of the BYV, British Union for the Abolition of Vivisection, which doesn't actually exist anymore. But I got some insight into the workings of the national groups, and I was a little bit concerned about the corporatization of the movement back then. Since then, we've seen a growth of that. There's more paid staff, for example, in the movement now, in lots and lots of corporations doing lots and lots of similar things than ever before. And now we've got a new breed of entrepreneurs in the movement. And a lot of the money, as always, funneled into the national groups, and now a lot of the money is being funneled into these individuals instead of the grassroots. Now that concerns me. It's something that I want to do something about. What a development that I would never have foreseen, and I'm not sure that anyone in my generation would have foreseen, is the way that the corporate structure has entered the grassroots, or what's called the grassroots. So now we've got a business, a professional model of sameness and things that can be replicated in the grassroots. And of course the most obvious example is AV in the modern movement. Now this concerns me. I think it's counter-revolutionary. I think it is debilitating for activists. And I think we're in a situation that Christopher Hitchens describes just here now.
On the poison question, I think there's the real temptation of something very poisonous to human society and human relations, which is the fear of freedom, the wish to be slaves, the wish to be told what to do. Now, just as we all like to think, and we live under written documents and proclamations that encourage us to think that it is our birthright and our most precious need to be free, to be liberated, to be untrammeled, so we also know that unfortunately the innate in people is the servile, is the wish to be told what to do, is the adoration for strong and brutal and cruel leaders. That this other baser element of the human makeup has to be accounted for.
Now, I'm not suggesting that the leadership of AV are strong and brutal and cruel, corrupt and maybe obsessed with money, maybe, but not necessarily those things. But there is a problem which Hitchens identifies. I was told a few years ago, when the first chapter of AV started in Dublin, where I'm an activist, that people do like to be told what to do, and they like to wear the uniform, and they like that kind of hierarchical structure, which is counter-revolutionary in the sense that we need people to think for themselves, to become organisers, and to organise amongst each other, and not wait to be told what to do and how to do it, what to wear and how to say it, and all the rest. We need flexible, radical activists, because we have a revolution to bring about, probably one of the biggest revolutions that we could even think about, the end of cultural speciesism. And we can't really, I don't think, impose a model of bureaucracy and sameness and leaders and followers on our movement in order to achieve that revolution. So, as many of you will know, I'm a sociologist, and so Max Weber is a leading figure in sociology, but another guy called Ritzer used Weber's ideas and came up with an idea called the McDonaldization of society. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of clips which explains that, because what I'm worried about is that we're seeing a McDonaldization of the animal movement, and that to me is very scary and, as I said again, counter-revolutionary and bad.
During the 19th century, sociologist Max Weber developed the rationality principle, which is the acceptance of rules, efficiency, and practical results as an important aspect of formal organizations and bureaucracies. At the end of the 20th century, sociologist George Ritzer found a new model for the rationality principle, the Golden Arches.
Weber argued that the bureaucracy was the model of the rationalization process, but it seemed to me when I thought about rationalization at the end of the 20th century that really the fast food restaurant was a better model for his process. McDonaldization is defined as the process by which the principles that lie at the base of the fast food restaurant are coming to dominate more and more sectors of society and more parts of the world. There are four basic principles of McDonaldization. The first is efficiency, which means that you look for the best route to whatever goal it is that you have in mind. The second is predictability, that things are the same from one time to another time or one place to another place. The third is calculability, or an emphasis on quantity rather than quality. And the fourth is an emphasis on non-human technology rather than human technology.
These principles have expanded into other segments of our lives.
We want some efficiency, we want some predictability. It's just that when those become so predominant that they drive everything else out, that everything becomes predictable.
Do you think McDonaldization is as relevant today as it was when you first wrote the book? Do you think it's more relevant, less relevant, relevant in different ways?
Oh, it's much more relevant. That, with each passing year, the McDonaldization of our environment and of organizations in which we exist proliferates. Because I'm not really interested in McDonald's. It just happens to be the name that I chose. I'm interested in the process. But I think this process is not going where. It's just going to continue to expand. We're getting closer and closer to Weber's iron cage.
So a couple of things to note then. That the argument is not saying that everything about McDonaldization is bad, that we want some elements of it. Even within the social movement, there needs to be some element of structure. But Ritzer made a comment at the end about Weber's iron cage. This is the idea that people's creativity is being blocked. We're in a kind of alienated situation to what we're about. And this is a concern, because we want creative activists who can think on their feet, they can organize amongst themselves, and they can be flexible to what's going on, whether it's a form of vegan education, maybe even elements of pressure campaigning. These things could become a blend. And then, you can organize a few people to stand with a laptop now and again and show films on the street, and you can organize yourself into a cube or a square. But then the next week you could be out at the slaughterhouse taking some photographs. Don't need to do it all the time because the pictures are all the same from all around the world. But then you could be on the street with the vegan education, using the films and using the pictures to educate the public. And we need to get this kind of stuff all over the place. We need to develop the grassroots. And the way we're going to develop the grassroots is to have a lot of grassroots organizers who can think for themselves, who can organize, who can arrange things and cooperate with each other, not ones who just sit and wait for orders. That's what concerns me. And that's why I keep calling it counter-revolutionary. I came into the movement through the Hunt Saboteurs. And yeah, there's a structure to it. There's also a heck of a lot of flexibility. And you also learn to think on your feet and, you know, to do the stuff that's needed on the day. This is what we need for our revolution. We need critical thinking, proactive organizers within the movement, not passive people, not people hiding behind masks. We need people to step up to the plate and get the job done. And we're not going to do that with the McDonaldization of the animal movement. We're just not. Okay, Earthlings, I'll see you again. Take care in our troubling times. Bye for now.